blessings, earth-dwelling creature, whoever you are, wherever you are in this world, however you happen to be doing in this moment, and wherever you are, the way you are, and whenever you happen to be watching this. My name is Rocco, and behind me is this board where I wrote down some codes for self, and it's about shifting reality, shifting timelines from your undesired reality to your desired reality. And it's hyper inspired by this dude named Bentinho Massaro. And there's some different people who say different things about him, but he is a really clear channel for what I would call non-dual understanding. And it's a kind of Raja Yoga, it's a kind of Siddha medicine, and it's been very, very helpful for me along this yogic and Christic path of realization. And then from that realization, there's embodiment, there's actualization. And so let's get right into it. Basically, Belle and I are here at the ranch, and this is a place that my family moved when I was 10. And yeah, it's like a crazy, awesome blessing. But in all reality, like it's not mine, and it brings friction with family because, like family wants rent money, and we are in the situation that we're in, and good job, you realized Christ consciousness, and like, good job, you healed your trauma. Give me money, basically, And so Belle and I are talking about this reality that we want to manifest and that we know is already in us and already is showing itself to us. I listened to Neville Goddard, Abraham Hicks. We both listen to a lot of Abraham Hicks, and both those two and Wayne Dyer and Bentinho and other people that are in this kind of like, self-improvement, self-development, law of attraction, which is a lot of what crystalline consciousness is about. But if it gets too much in your head and what your ego wants to manifest, and it's not aligned with your dharma or your purpose, the reason that your atma, your crysted soul, came into this body, if it's not in alignment with that, then it's going to create more karma or more momentum for you. And that's something that Belle and I have become more and more sensitive to. And basically, like, why is anything worth doing? What are the fruits of anything that we do? Certain activities, they do reward us just for doing them, just for being in the process. The process is the product. And living in real life, IRL, where's the money, bro? You gotta pay rent. You gotta pay for the real world stuff, which is Saturn, and that's what the Christians call Satan. But ultimately, when you integrate that Saturn is just the most dense place that ultimately mirrors you back to you, then all of your realized self funnels through your human body-mind complex, egoic structure, and basically you find some value to give the world. You find something to offer. You find something to contribute. And that's what Dharma is all about. That's what finding your sadhana, to clean your prism, to refine yourself, to purify your crystallinity. And the more Christ-like you are, the more in service you are going to be. And there are ways to refine those offerings so that you can live in abundance, and you don't have to live in those lower density vibrations of lack and constantly feeling separate from that version of yourself that you're meant to align with. That's where my real intention is in this video and in drawing on this board. So without going too deep into the details, maybe I can like zoom in and crop or something like that. Basically, current situation is situation A, and you want to get to situation B. And for self, I wrote some things out that are here from Belle and I. We know.
I don't think need to go into it.
Well, we want to know. We know we want an art space.
Okay.
I want a Tesla. I want a matte tan Tesla. If you see me in the world and I'm driving a matte beige, or like a cream tannish sand colored Tesla, you know that I've manifested my highest destiny reality, at least to that point. At least from this video moving forward. But you're right, don't need to get too much into the details. But this is reality B, or timeline B, and this is timeline A. So all of us, regardless of your situation, we can all recognize that as like this primal, fundamental aspect of reality. There's what you're experiencing, and there's maybe what you'd rather experience. And for those among us who have manifested the high bliss octave where what you want and what you have are not separate, then congratulations. This is basically a tool to aligning with that version of self. So, current situation, we constantly give attention through the five senses because it's our current situation. We see the place, we see the house, we see these people. They reflect back to a certain versions of ourselves. That's what a relationship is. A relationship is the ions that we relay as shipment, as the sending of our reality through ionic temporal exchange. What the heck does that mean? You know, ions, molecules, mitochondria, the most minute version of energy possibly measurable, like that's being exchanged every time we interface with somebody. Every time that we look in the mirror, we see what we see. Every time someone sees us, they see what they see. So every time we're being seen by someone, they're kind of locking us in to their perception. And if they are from our family structure, then that might be entangled in etc., etc., a lot of stuff. So through the five senses, we're constantly being locked in through these senses. We're locked into this current reality. And I look at attention as atomic ions, or the tension of atom, which, not to get into chemet too much, but atom is seen as like another rendition of the word God. And ultimately where I feel like the true meaning is like what atomic energy is all about. And atoms, like the first dude, atom. And so my particular situation is I'm here at this ranch, and Belle has a certain car, and we both have certain jobs, and we both have a certain amount of money in the bank, and our certain reality on social media, and our certain level of fulfillment and satisfaction in our real world life. Some of these like spiritual teachers would just say, just feel the feeling of having achieved what you know you came to do. Yeah, that's a great part of this tactic, and that's actually how we partially start shifting to be reality B, the reality that we are born to live, our high destiny, or what I like to call our high bliss timeline. So by feeling the end result, as again Neville Goddard talks about, living in the end. Wayne Dyer, Abraham Hicks, Law of Attraction, Bentinho Massaro. Bentinho's a big piece of how this idea came into me. I was listening to a video of his recently, and he talks a lot about the quantum physics of shifting timelines. And this one's rendition, but tune into that one if it's helpful medicine, because it is for some. And this place where it meets in the middle, God is seeing all things. Whether you recognize the Eye of Ra or Eye of Horus as God, that's on you. But it just meant to signify the sight of the divine. And the heart marks the cross. The cross marks the spot where your treasure is. And that's what being the Christ is all about. You carry the burden of the body. That is your karma. And our suffering is our teacher. But when we give our strife to God through our dharma, through living an aligned life, and we constantly are living consciously in that we're not suffering for no reason. We're suffering because we came here for some purpose. We came here for some reason. When you're living in that purpose and in alignment with that reason, that's what the yogis call dharma. So we keep seeing these physical senses reflect back to us a certain world and a certain version of ourselves, and we feel stuck, and that's how we can feel in a loop. But when we use our imagination, we can shift into timeline B, and we can feel the things that we, at least from right now, we feel that are there for us in that timeline. And as Bentinho talks about, those are basically just symbols. And whether or not they're meant to come true, literally, they act right now as relevant symbols to help move us forward so that we have some reference point. It's like somebody who's in high school and they're currently playing football and they're like, I'm gonna win the NFL, the Super Bowl. I'm gonna be at the Super Bowl. I'm gonna catch the ball. That right there at that moment for them tunes them into the feeling that in their current reality geometry, that's the perfect symbol. That's the perfect logo for them, for what completion and fulfillment and their destiny fulfilled feels like. You probably have one that's very specific to you. I have one that's very specific to me. But when you're in reality timeline B, you can notice things that are there. I like to think of it as the interior decoration of your dream life, and your high bliss timeline. I continue to just notice myself talk about it like that. It's the high bliss timeline. It's the timeline where bliss is the highest that it can be. And so Dharma must be realized and actualized into the physical world, that inevitably it brings abundance up to the highest threshold possible for our individual karmic structure in this lifetime. So some paragraphs that were written. The more we lessen our importance of the current perceived reality and instead value our high bliss timeline, we literally shift timelines on a quantum level. So I think the word importance here is pretty funny, because I'm port ants. It's like the I am presence is getting imported as a trance through attention. And that's what we give importance. It's really just where your I am presence is funneled into. But then the egoic mind has this conversation about it as being, more or less important than something else. Is there like a napkin or something? I just want to kill this bug real quick.
Oh, what is it?
It's a bug that I don't want near me or you. So I'm just gonna.
Okay. But not a scorpion?
It's not a scorpion, but there have been a lot of scorpions lately. And sometimes we have to eliminate the perceived obstacles or botherances, or create boundaries with our environment, because we don't necessarily want to snuggle up against everything. And that's beautiful also. So yeah, the more we lessen our importance that we give to our currently perceived reality, and instead we value our high bliss timeline, in that moment we're making a choice, and we're saying, yeah, I know that this is what I'm seeing, but I know this is what I'm meant for. In that moment, in that choice, you apply meditation and you apply some type of sadhana to it. That is the tactic to shift into that B reality. By staying positively oriented in the moment, in alignment, and accordance with crystalline dharmic service to others posture, we literally evaporate our molecules out of the old timeline, reality geometry, and get transported into a higher octave of abundance, embodiment, and bliss. Meaning, literally, it all happens in the now. But because you practice this tactic consciously in the now, what is this tactic all about? It's about recognizing the truth. And if you know your truth, and your reality that you're currently seeing through your five senses doesn't reflect back to you your truth, you have this very interesting fork in the road where you have to either give more importance to your physically perceived world, or you choose to go up. You choose to go up through imagination and choose to give something else higher value, which is, if you feel like you're here for a reason, some people call that destiny. So that is some of that. You evaporate your molecules out of that old timeline and get transported into a higher octave of abundance, embodiment, and bliss. That's the benefit of staying positively oriented in the moment. And you have to be in alignment with your personal dharma, sadhana, karmic structure. We all have something very different that we're able to do and unable to do. And I look at those as kind of karmic parameters. If you're going too high above your calling, you're going to get stressed out and probably get sick, and something will break because you can't sustain that. It's not meant for you. And if you go too far below, you'll get bored, you'll get depressed, because you're underutilizing your possibility, your potential. And in the upper room alignment, which really is just the Christ itself, it is the Jiva Atma, it is really when you take your Jiva Atma up into Paramatma as sadhana, as this devotion, it's devoted service. In the upper room, which is also kind of, you could see it as like above Saraswara in Soul Star, you actually have this like, I really believe everyone has celestial guidance, whether you believe it or not. You have been designated a kind of angelic bodyguard team, and depending on who you're more or less aligned with, that'll determine who those ascended ones are that are going to be looking over you. But everyone can have them, and you can speak to them and get more communication. But that's also what Paul Selig calls the upper room. It is the Christed room. It's the Christ itself. It's where the Christ itself sees from. And it's not just through the physical senses of the body, basically. So in the upper room alignment, meaning physical embodiment alignment with that upper room perspective. In our upper room alignment, nothing is missing. So by being and doing what is necessary for us to personally feel that nothing is missing on a daily basis, we build a bridge to that reality and version of ourselves. So by practicing nothing being missing and acting as if we are in that timeline B where nothing is missing, we actually leave timeline A into timeline B, moment by moment by moment by moment. And I see it as this, you have this old bank account that just has all this money, this manipura, this version of yourself, and you're slowly transferring your identity out of your old self, like it's going through this Wells Fargo bank transfer, and you're just slowly evaporating this old bank account because you no longer store your I am presence in that version of yourself and in that version of your reality, and it transfers into this new one that you can't really sustain if it's not in alignment with Dharma, in alignment with your sadhana, purification of your ego. The soul self gets purified once the Dharma's really been worked on, but at a kind of glance level, the ego is the first thing that we're really purifying. That's the ego mind, the thing that has really forgotten. The forgottenness is the first thing we purify and clean, so that then the Jiva Atma, the Christ self, the Christos, sees clearly. The I am presence sees clearly. And if your reality doesn't reflect who you know you really are, you can smile at it. And you can give less energy to it, give less importance. You import your I am into it less because it's not for you. It's actually just a mirror of contrast meant to send you back to where you're meant to go. As like a feeling of, you touch that hot stove, your hand comes away, pulls away automatically. Because you're like, yeah, that's not from me. I can tell just by how hot that flame is that that's not for me. Certain realities have that. So before I erase this, I wanted to share a couple of those codes, maybe for self and others. But yeah, that's it. Have fun shifting timelines. Namaste.